back to another reaction video. It's my second reaction video. I think my first one was on, well, I know my first one was on Michael Jordan. So this one is going to be on Jordan versus LeBron. Danger Productions is the channel that did it. I went and looked. This is the only video he has, but I hear it's like really good and done well, and it's 32 minutes long. So I can't even believe I'm about to sit here for 30 minutes and react to a video. But I had to because I heard this was really good and I want to see what the outcome was. So yep, I'll go ahead and start the video up, and then we'll see what it's looking like. Yep, Danger Productions. Good quote. Yeah, I can. Yeah, this is, yeah. Dude did a good job on this. I can tell. He only got one video though. This is the only video he got. It must have took him a long time to make this video. So I'm anxious to see or hear his analysis and see, how he come up with some of the things he come up with and who he's gonna say that he think is the GOAT is, because supposedly he's supposed to be revealing it at the end. Oh, 30 minutes. All right, let's do it. Jordan versus LeBron. The definitive GOAT analysis.
Jordan versus LeBron. LeBron versus Jordan. It's a debate that has captured the public's attention for the last several years, especially after this moment in 2016, when LeBron James beat the Golden State Warriors to win the third championship of his career. In LeBron's own words,
that one right there made me the greatest player of all time. That's what I felt. Reasons. I was like, that one right there made you the greatest player of all time.
But did it? Is everything since that moment simply icing on LeBron's cake? Or is LeBron destined to finish his career in Michael Jordan's shadow? We've all heard the...
Stop. I'm sorry. I know it's 30 minutes long and y'all don't want to hear me talk if y'all haven't already seen this like I haven't, but when he made that comment coming back from 3-1, yeah, coming back from 3-1 against the Warriors or against anybody is a huge deal. But for him to say that one right there made me to go, two things. One, no one else in the history of basketball has self-proclaimed themselves as the GOAT except that one man, LeBron, which is one of my favorite players. Didn't like that too much. Now, I don't even know why you would even say that. Number two, how can coming from a 3-1 lead make you the GOAT? Some people say that the 73-9 Warriors was the toughest team ever because they broke the record for the regular season. But I would, interject and say, you can't be the best team ever if you didn't win it. Like if you was making a list of best teams ever, you want to go down a list of champions. And then the first 9 champion might be the Warriors. So the NBA been around for what, 60 plus years? Close to 75, I think maybe 75 years. So that means there's 75 teams that are better than the Warriors. And then you can say the Warriors is the 76th best team, but if you're not winning it, you're not the best, right? That's just my opinion.
Arguments from LeBron supporters.
He's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, he's more durable.
And from Jordan supporters.
Michael Jordan was merely 6-0 with 6 MVPs in the finals.
But the GOAT debate isn't as simple as the pundits make it seem. There are a number of factors relevant in determining the greatest basketball player of all time. In fact, I would say there are 5 things that really matter when determining the GOAT of any sport. These criteria are, in no particular order, accomplishments, longevity, winning, statistics, and what we'll refer to in this video as the eye test.
I like what he's doing already. So if you're going to have a debate about something, it's cool to have it for entertainment purposes, just at the barbershop or, you know, at the basketball court, you just having this conversation and you arguing back and forth. But the thing that happens is you're arguing with someone who views it totally different than you view it. Like somebody will come and argue you, and the only thing they're talking about is a paper resume. So they're arguing with a paper resume. And then someone like me, I'm big on what he calls the eye test. I'm big on what you do on the court. So the better player is going to have the advantage, in my opinion. You know, but you still need the paper resume as well. So with Jordan being proclaimed the GOAT by a lot of people before Kobe, before LeBron, and then part of his criteria, or part of why he's so great, is that he accomplished 6 rings. Now it seems like people, if they can get to 5 or 6, then they can surpass Mike, and they just ignore how good of a player he was, how fundamentally sound he was, how complete he was as a player on both ends of the court. They ignore all of that stuff, you know, the final points of the game, his footwork, the different levels he could score on, whether it be beyond the arc, free throw, mid-range, post, fast break, off the ball, all of that stuff. He was a complete player. They forget about that. So they just started saying, if I can catch him on the resume, like LeBron passed him on the all-time points list, and then he has more rebounds and more assists, and now he has 4 rings. All he's trying to do is catch him on paper. But there's a lot of things that go into why Michael Jordan is the best in a lot of people's eyes. But, I forgot. But what I was saying with the criteria you come up with, now you come up with a fair criteria that you can apply across the board to everyone that's in the discussion. And it's not a conversation where I think the GOAT is this and you think the GOAT is this. It's one standard. And then we match the players up to that standard. So let's see where he go with it.
And to be the GOAT, you don't need to be the best in any specific category, but you need to be pretty good across the board. So simply winning 7 championships, like Robert Horry did, isn't enough to get you into the conversation.
Right.
When we're finished with this video, it'll be plainly obvious that one guy comes out on top. But before we get started, I want to clarify that this is not a comparison of legacies. It's about who was the better basketball player.
Right.
If we were talking about legacies, Jordan's is nearly untouchable. Not only did he lead basketball to global popularity, he helped transform Nike into an empire, changed the way players played and how they dressed.
Right.
And he even made it cool for guys to be bald. And while those things certainly contribute to MJ's iconic status, they don't make him a better player on the court. So let's evaluate the criteria that matter. And we'll start with individual accomplishments.
Okay, let's go.
Take a look.
MVPs,
Jordan
finals
had
MVPs.
more regular season MVPs, twice as many finals MVPs, 9 more scoring titles, and several more selections to the NBA's all-defensive team, including once being named Defensive Player of the Year. LeBron has more All-Star appearances, but that's largely due to his having played more seasons. In fact, when taking into account retirements and major injuries, Jordan essentially played 13 seasons compared to 17 seasons for LeBron, making Jordan's significant lead in accomplishments all the more impressive. And that's to say nothing of MJ's brilliant college career, which saw him twice named All-American and once awarded College Player of the Year, at a time when the country's best players actually went to college. So regardless of whether you're a LeBron fan or MJ fan, you have to give the accomplishments checkmark to Jordan. The second criteria in our GOAT analysis is longevity. And this one is also a no-brainer,
that's gonna
but
go
this
to
time in
LeBron.
favor of LeBron.
Yeah.
Not only has LeBron played more seasons in the league, but he's had a longer peak than Jordan. Jordan's peak lasted about 10 years, whereas LeBron's peak has lasted 16 years and is still going.
Oh, stop. All right, so I agree that LeBron gets the longevity. It's, you know, he played 17 years so far, gearing up for his 18th season, and he's still playing at a high level. But he's 35, which was the same age as Michael Jordan was when he retired in 98 after winning the championship. So he won a championship at 35. LeBron won a championship at 35. MJ won, I think, an MVP that year. I think he played all 82 games that year. He played at a super high level when Scottie Pippen was breaking down physically. So Jordan was still holding up. No major injuries other than that foot injury his second year. I think he was on the defensive first team that year. And then he won finals MVP as well. And was still, I think, and got a scoring title that year. So if he would have came back, if it wasn't, and you've seen The Last Dance, if it wasn't for the Bulls management breaking that team up, Michael Jordan could have came back and played at the elite level at 36 and maybe even 37 as well, because we've seen what he did at 39 and 40 with the Wizards. He was still decent after sitting out 2.5, 3 years and coming back and just jumping on the court. So I think there's an argument for Michael Jordan's longevity as well. That year in 99 was the lockout season, and the year that Tim Duncan and the Spurs and David Robinson won the championship. And the East opponent was the New York Knicks without Patrick Ewing. So Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell, Marcus Camby, Chris Childs, Charlie Ward, they made it. And I think it was like a 7 or 8 seed that made it all the way to the championship. I think it's safe to say the Bulls maybe would have got to the finals that year as well. Don't know if they would have beat the Spurs, but yeah, that's my argument with the longevity thing. But I give the nod to LeBron.
And he's been incredibly durable during that time, missing significant time to injury only in 2019. That said, the claim that LeBron has been much more durable than Michael has been a bit overblown. Consider that Jordan played in at least 80 regular season games 11 times in his career, including all 82 games an incredible 9 times. Compare that to LeBron, who played in at least 80 regular season games just twice, and in all 82 games just once. So both LeBron and Jordan get high marks for their durability. But durability aside, the bottom line is that LeBron has sustained his level of excellence for a much longer period of time than Jordan, which puts the longevity checkmark squarely in LeBron's corner.
Okay.
That brings us to the third GOAT criteria, winning. As we all know, Jordan won 6 championships.
Right.
LeBron has won 3.
4
Jordan
now.
is 6-0 in the NBA Finals. LeBron is 3-6. Yes, LeBron has made the finals 9 times compared to only 6 times for Jordan, but let's not pretend that making the finals is the same thing, or even close to the same thing, as winning a title. Take a prime example from another sport, the Buffalo Bills. They're the only team in NFL history to appear in 4 consecutive Super Bowls. But is there a single player or fan of that team that wouldn't trade all 4 of those appearances for just 1 Super Bowl win?
Good example.
Frankly, talk to any fan whose team lost the season's final game and ask them how they felt afterward. Almost universally, their feelings are of sadness, anger, and disappointment. And that's just the fans. For players, those feelings are only magnified. Listen to Charles Barkley talk about losing in the NBA Finals.
And I was just in shock when it was over because I was frustrated because I couldn't wheel my team past Michael and the Bulls. And first of all, I don't think I've ever gotten over it, number one. But that was traumatic, and it's painful.
So we can all stop with this false equivalence between winning the championship and finishing runner-up.
Yeah.
In the words of Herm Edwards,
you play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game.
Now back to Jordan and LeBron. As mentioned, on basketball's...
He make a good point. Getting there is not the same as winning it. And there's other things that you can go into with how the conferences were stacked up, the opponents that he had to face on the East. And I'm talking about LeBron James. Like I said, I always give people this example. LeBron James is great. Really great. I got him at number 4 or 5 all time, behind Mike, Kareem, and Kobe, right? And the reason why I give Kobe the nod was because Kobe was a better player, more complete player, in my opinion. I value defense. I value all of that. The numbers, yeah, that's one thing that we can talk about down the line. But Kobe's a better player to me. So with that being said, He got to the finals 9 times out of the East. And is it a big accomplishment? Yeah, it is. But I look at the other players who were able to get to the championship out of the East. And I look at what J. Kidd was able to do. He got there twice with the New Jersey Nets. His second best player was Kenyon Martin 1 year. 1 year was Mutombo. Maybe RJ. I don't think he got there when he had Vince, but J. Kidd propelled them to the championship. They got swept. Allen Iverson propelled the 76ers to the championship. They only won 1 game. His second best player was Mutombo, right? We just mentioned the New York Knicks. Allen Houston was the best player on that team. He got the Knicks to the championship. Reggie Miller got the Pacers to the championship. This is all coming out of the East, and I'm seeing players that are lesser players than LeBron that are getting to the championship out of the East. Why was it a different team every year? Because I guess the East was like that. But here comes this dominant player that's a top 5 category of all time. If the East was to the point where J. Kidd, Allen Iverson, Reggie Miller, and Allen Houston can lead their teams to the championship, but there were no match for the West, then someone that was way better than them, like LeBron, could do it as well. And that's why he was able to do it more consistent than they were, because he was a better player than them. But he was getting there because the East wasn't that strong, and the reason why people say he wouldn't be able to do that in the West, it's not that we're not saying that he can't make it to the championship and win in the West. We're saying that he can't go there 9 straight times in the West. There's no way he's going to get past the Warriors that many times, or whoever, or the Spurs when they was dominant that many times. It's not happening. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Biggest stage, the NBA Finals, Jordan was 6-0. LeBron was 3-6. And frankly, that doesn't even show how lopsided their records really are. In terms of individual finals games, Jordan was 24-11. LeBron is 18-31. And that's because in 4 of his 6 finals losses, LeBron's team hasn't even been competitive. Twice he got swept, and 2 other times he lost 4-1. That includes being on the wrong side of the 2 most lopsided finals by margin of loss in NBA history.
That's tough.
Of course, LeBron fans will tell you that the only reason for LeBron's poor finals record is that his competition was so tough. Ironically, some of these same fans criticized Jordan for losing early in his career to a Celtics team stacked with 5 Hall of Famers, and they conveniently gloss over the fact that LeBron reached the finals so many times in part because the competition in his own conference was so weak. During the vast majority of his career, LeBron played in what many dubbed the Leastern Conference because the East was so much weaker than the West. On the other hand, during Jordan's playing days, the East was generally considered the stronger conference, as Jordan had to battle through hard-fought rivalries against the Bad Boy Pistons, Patrick Ewing's Knicks, the Shaq Penny-led Magic, and Reggie Miller's Pacers. That said, if you want to blame LeBron's failure in the finals on the level of his competition, I won't argue with you. But let's also not blow it out of proportion.
In defense of LeBron, though, he just said that the East was strong when Jordan was there. It wasn't that the East was strong because it still had teams with 1 star. Reggie Miller was 1 star. Rick Smits was like his guy. Mark Jackson 1 year. If you want to include Chris Mullin and Jalen Rose, then you can. But that's a team led by 1 star with a supporting cast. The Knicks, 1 star Patrick Ewing with a supporting cast. Who else was Miami Heat, led by Alonzo Mourning, 1 star. You can count Tim Hardaway as another star, maybe even Mashburn. That was a tough squad. But the Atlanta Hawks, 1 star and Steve Smith, and a supporting cast. Michael Jordan, 1 star. You can say 2 stars with Pippen. So, and then plus the fact that Michael Jordan was way better than the stars from the other teams. So I think Michael Jordan had a slight edge, but the edge was him. The edge was the fact that he was better than the stars he was facing. He was that much better. So I'm not gonna say the East was all that strong when Jordan was there, but I think it was a little closely balanced where it wasn't lopsided. Where you got LeBron James, you know, him being so much better than all the other stars in the East when he was with Cleveland the first time. I think the next best star that had a squad in the East might have been Gilbert Arenas with the Wizards, or you can say maybe Dwight Howard with Orlando. Who else? Who was with D Wade with the Heat? You know, so you know it was teams with one star and the supporting cast, just like LeBron had. You know, but when he went to Miami, that's when he had the advantage. Now he has a star from the East in Chris Bosh, a star from the Heat with Wade. So he pretty much took down two teams. Cleveland, not in contention no more because they lost their star in LeBron. The Raptors not in contention anymore because they lost their star in Chris Bosh. And of course, he was on the Heat with those two other stars, right? So now the Heat is the juggernaut. And the only other competition was the Celtics, where Garnett just had that bad injury. So you know, they had some obstacle to get over with that. And then everything else was what? Maybe Dwight Howard in Orlando. But they took Rashard Lewis the second year and he joined Miami. Ray Allen left the big three with Boston and he joined Miami. You know, so he was grabbing players from the East that played major roles on their team and joining them with the Heat. So he had a clear-cut advantage on the East. So there's your answer for 4 of his championship run, straight championship finals appearances. The East was watered down, right?
If you look at the average number of wins of their finals opponents, you'll see that LeBron's finals opponents averaged 60.8 wins per season, whereas Jordan's finals opponents averaged 61.2 wins per season. So as it turns out, both players face stiff competition in the finals. But a big reason we don't hold the 93 Suns, the 96 Sonics, or the 98 Jazz in the same regard as some of LeBron's finals opponents is because, unlike LeBron's adversaries, Jordan's opponents never actually won the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Which goes to my original point, that the difference between winning the title and finishing runner-up is huge. And the reason those teams never won the title? This guy. Look, I'm not trying to say that Jordan's opponents were as good as the Warriors teams that LeBron faced 4 times in the finals. The truth is that Jordan never played a juggernaut quite like that. But there's a pretty good reason for that. Jordan's Bulls were the juggernaut.
Facts.
They were the team winning 70-plus games.
Facts.
They were the team with the target on their back every year. And as the Warriors showed us, that's not an easy place to be. As great as the Warriors were, they were never able to string together 3 consecutive championships. Jordan's Bulls did it
That's
twice.
a good point.
So what's the greater achievement? Beating the juggernaut or being the juggernaut? Or to be more specific, beating the juggernaut 1 time out of the 4 times you faced them? Or being the juggernaut year after year after year?
That's
and then
tough.
doing it again, year after year after year. There's no doubt that LeBron's victory over the 73-win Warriors was the highlight of his career. But it's not the first time that an underdog has won the championship, and there actually have been much bigger underdogs who ended up winning the title. But how many times have we seen a player lead his team to 6 championships in 8 years? Prior to Jordan's Bulls, only Bill Russell's Celtics ever accomplished that feat in the NBA.
That's
where they
dominance.
incredibly won 11 championships in 13 seasons. However, back then, there was an average of less than 10 teams in the league, and only a couple rounds of playoffs, so it was considerably easier to win a title. And no player, not even Bill Russell, ever had a run of winning 25 of 26 playoff series, as Michael Jordan did. And Michael's pattern of winning goes beyond the NBA. Let's not forget that Jordan has never won anything but gold in the Olympics, and he also earned an NCAA championship, in which he hit the first of 2 iconic championship-winning shots in his career.
Yeah.
All that is to say, when it comes to winning, the checkmark clearly goes to Jordan.
Yeah.
On to the 4th GOAT criteria, statistics. This one is
This
a
might
bit
be
more
LeBron again,
complicated.
too. Maybe.
I mean, how do you statistically evaluate 2 players who played in different eras under different rules?
So if it's see, I don't think this is fair to either player if he's going to if you got to draw the line somewhere. You can't come in and say, let's take into account the errors they was playing in. Let's take into account hand checking. Okay, yeah, that's one thing. But if you're trying to be fair and objective, you know, that's gonna. I mean, we know the hand checking made it harder to score and all of that stuff. But don't try to, you know, it sounds like he's leaning toward MJ personally, and I don't think it's fair for him to, you know, say that the errors, you know, is part of the criteria. I wouldn't make it part of the criteria. If LeBron wins in statistics, then he wins in statistics. But you just gotta have that asterisk saying that, hey, all time statistics is different from, you know, per game or averages. I take the averages because it tells more of a story. All time just says that, hey, he played longer. You know, so
at different positions. One way of doing it is to simply look at the 8 traditional statistics of basketball: points, assists, rebounds, steals, blocks, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, and turnovers. And we'll focus on per game stats rather than cumulative stats, since cumulative stats such as total career points and total career assists really speak to longevity, which is already its own category of the GOAT analysis. Per game stats, on the other hand, is more of an apples to apples comparison. So looking at the 8 traditional stats, we see that Jordan leads LeBron in 5 of them. Points per
let's
game.
pause it right there so we can look at that. Points per game. All right, so obviously Jordan was a more. I mean, they both were scoring threats. I mean, they both were scoring threats. But Michael Jordan was a killer and could score from anywhere. LeBron James was so physically talented, like they said, bigger, stronger, faster. I would debate that faster one though. Michael Jordan was clock running a 4.3, but yeah, they both scored at a high clip. Field goal percentage was about the same, but most of LeBron's field goals were in the paint. Michael Jordan shot a lot of jump shots. So for their stuff to even be close, if I'm shooting layups and you're shooting mid-range jump shots and we got around the same, you know, percentage, you got to tip your head off to the guy that's shooting those jump shots at that high clip. But yeah, 30 points, and then his points per average went up to about 33, 34 in the playoffs, you know, and then in the finals, I mean, he was just lights out in the finals, man. So I give the points nod, but then you got the assists and rebounds. For LeBron to be such a physical specimen and have the ball in his hands so much more than any other player, for their assists to just be separated by 2.1 and their rebounds only separated by 1.2. I mean, come on, man. Like that's rough. That's supposed to be his calling card. And here it is. MJ is doing it as well, which he didn't even have the ball in his hand that much. Scottie Pippen did. You know, so he got his assists in you know, other type of ways, but you know, he played off the ball, played in the post. Dude was a great player, man. Free throws, of course, you get a nod. Turnovers. I don't know if y'all know this, man. 3.5 turnovers a game. Of course, he got the ball in his hand a lot. I'm not sure if you know, but all time, LeBron is number 2 in turnovers all time. He has the most turnovers than anybody who's ever played this game except for one person. And I think I had to double check to see who that number 1 is, but LeBron might end up with that record as well. Everyone talks about how he's going to have, he might catch Kareem at number 1 for scoring, but he might be number 1 in turnovers too. So you got to ask LeBron fans, why is he number 1 in turnovers, or why is he number 2 in turnovers? And they're going to give you an answer because he has the ball in his hands so much. But if I ask you, why does he have 7.4 assists? You're not going to say because he has the ball in his hands so much, right? It makes sense. The guy who always has the ball, like John Stockton, if I always have the ball, that means if you score, it's probably going to be off my assist, right? That's how you get a lot of assist numbers.
Steals per game, blocks per game, free throw percentage, and fewer turnovers. LeBron leads in the other 3: assists per game, rebounds per game, and field goal percentage. But that's a pretty simplistic way of looking at statistics.
I'm gonna say one last thing. I gotta stop pausing because I know this is a 30-minute long video and I don't want to make it 50 minutes. But I'm gonna say one last thing about stats. In my opinion, basketball, the game, you win the game by scoring more points than your opponent. The way you score more points is put the ball in the hole and stop the other team from putting the ball in the hole. So that means scoring and defending is the two king stats. All these other things are supplemental stats. Like you can't record a rebound unless someone miss a shot. And how you make people miss shots is by playing good defense. So even a rebound is dependent on good defense. How do you record an assist? You can't record an assist unless the person you pass it to has the ability to score. So if I pass it to Kyle Korver and he shoot the three, I got the assist because Kyle Korver is a good three-point shooter.
What if we instead turn to analytics? Probably the most well-known analytic stat is player efficiency rating, or PER for short. This metric was created by respected basketball analyst John Hollinger to give an overall rating to a player's performance based on traditional stats like the ones we just mentioned. Jordan has led the league in PER 7 times, LeBron 6 times. Jordan has finished top 3 in PER 10 times, LeBron 9 times. In fact, Jordan has the highest career PER in both the regular season and the playoffs. Another popular analytics stat is win shares. Jordan has led the league in win shares 8 times, LeBron 5 times. Jordan has finished top 3 in win shares 11 times, LeBron 6 times. And when it comes to win shares per 48 minutes, Jordan has the highest career rating in both the regular season and the playoffs. What about box plus minus? Until recently, LeBron was actually ahead of Jordan in career box plus minus. But after the 2017 season gave Russell Westbrook the greatest single-season box plus minus in history by a wide margin, the architect of box plus minus realized that the stat was fundamentally flawed. So he made some changes to improve its formula. As a result, Michael Jordan now has the highest career box plus minus in both the regular season and the playoffs. And lastly, what about value over replacement player, which on its face seems to favor LeBron James? Well, value over replacement player is a cumulative stat, and as previously noted, cumulative stats speak more to longevity than they do game-to-game dominance. That said, according to value over replacement player, Jordan owns 6 of the 9 greatest individual seasons ever played, and on a per-game basis, MJ's career rating in value over replacement player is the highest of all time in both the regular season and the playoffs. Are you noticing a theme here? Not only does Jordan beat LeBron in every ratable analytics stat, he consistently ranks as the best ever across the board. Before we move on from analytics, I want to mention a lesser-known stat called game score, another brainchild of John Hollinger. Game score measures a player's performance in a single game, so it won't tell us who's had the better career, but it does provide insight into who's had the greatest games. Now, we only have game score stats since 1983, so you won't see any mentions of Chamberlain here. That said, of the 100 highest game scores ever recorded, incredibly 19 of them belong to Michael Jordan. In other words, nearly 1 out of every 5 of the best single-game performances over the last 4 decades has been by MJ. That includes the highest game score of all time for Jordan's 69.18 rebound masterpiece. Comparatively, LeBron has had only 3 of the top 100 game scores. When discussing the GOAT, Nick Wright is fond of asking this question.
The aliens come down. You have 1 game to save humanity.
That
Who's
makes
your
no
first
sense.
pick in the history of the world?
Well, Nick,
That makes no sense, man. Like when I'm glad he stopped saying that because that's the dumbest thing in the world. Because we all know Michael Jordan is known for his scoring. LeBron is known for his physical attributes and his passing. So if the aliens come down and you want one guy to play this game, if LeBron ain't got nobody to pass it to, I mean, you might want Michael Jordan. You know, you might want Michael Jordan either way, man. But you might want Kobe second. You might want Kareem third. You know, LeBron wouldn't be my top 3 pick out of those names. It just wouldn't be.
I think we have our answer. Now that I've finished drowning you in numbers, let's be real. Hardly anyone watching this video knows how to calculate PER, win shares, box plus minus, value over replacement player, or game score.
This dude really
And why
put some
should
time
you?
into this thing,
This is
man.
basketball, not Goodwill Hunting.
But I
So let's
wouldn't,
go back to the
I wouldn't go
traditional
with
stats
MJ
that we
on
all know and
stats. Though.
understand. But this time,
I would
let's
make
add
it a tie.
context to them. What do I mean by context? Well,
I would make it a tie because LeBron definitely has the all-time numbers for good reason. He played longer, but Michael Jordan, when you take it to the per game and like he just did with the analytics, yeah, Michael Jordan got it. Michael Jordan got it. I mean, he's not rebounding and assisting as much as LeBron, but everything else. I mean, the steals, the points per game. I mean, he got most of them.
some positions are simply better than others at racking up certain stats. Let's take rebounding as an example. In a vacuum, if we simply compare the number of rebounds per game of Brook Lopez and Jason Kidd, we might think that Lopez was the better rebounder. The truth is, relative to their positions, Lopez is statistically one of the worst rebounding centers in NBA history, whereas Kidd is statistically one of the best rebounding guards in NBA history. But even a poor rebounding center can grab more rebounds than a great rebounding guard solely by virtue of their roles on the court. So it makes sense that, to understand the context of a player's stats, we should compare them to the respective positions that they played. When comparing LeBron James to the other small forwards who have played at least 500 NBA games, this is where he ranks. Overall, that's pretty impressive. Now let's see how Jordan compares to all shooting guards who have played at least 500 NBA games. As good as LeBron is compared to other small forwards, Jordan is on another level when compared to other shooting guards. He's darn near the top of every major statistical category, and there isn't a single category where LeBron is better than MJ relative to his position, other than assists. So to sum up statistics,
like I
whether
said,
comparing
if you
traditional
got the ball
stats
all the
or
time,
analytics,
you're going to
and
record an
especially
assist.
when judging these players in the context of the positions they played, Jordan has a noticeable edge over LeBron. As such, we have to give the check mark to Jordan. And that takes us to the last category in our GOAT analysis, the eye test. And to be clear, by eye test, I don't mean which of these players is bigger, faster, or jumps higher. None of that is relevant unless we're having a track and field competition. And frankly, if physical measurables mattered, then George Murasan would be in the GOAT conversation. No, what I mean by the eye test is, if you sat an average basketball fan in front of a TV to watch a player in action, what would he notice that the player is and is not great at? Thankfully, I happen to be an average basketball fan, and I've had the privilege of watching both LeBron and Jordan during their playing days. So unlike a lot of my fellow YouTubers, I haven't merely relied on highlight videos.
The eye test ain't close.
Eyes told me when I saw Michael Jordan.
The eye test isn't close. All right, so this is what I see. Like I said, LeBron is 6'8", 270, and has the speed of a point guard and the body and the power of a power forward. Like he's Karl Malone, but with I mean he's Karl Malone with speed similar to, I don't know, somebody like freaking Iverson. You know, that's crazy, right? So getting to the hole is his best attribute, right? So when you watch him play, he's at the top of the key with the ball in his hand. And what he's trying to do is drive to the hole for a dunk or a layup. And the only way you can stop him from getting to the hole for a dunk or a layup is a really, really good defender, or like Kawhi, or, you know, when Bruce Bowen was playing, like one of these really high level defenders can stop him probably 40% of the time from getting to the hole for a dunk, maybe 50% of the time. Every now and then he's going to catch him though, right? But if you don't have a really good defender, you got to double. And if you double, that kicks in his other best attribute, which is passing. So getting to the hole is his number one attribute. Passing is his second best attribute. So he got weakness in his game that you can expose and force him to do. With Michael Jordan, you don't have none of that. All right. Michael Jordan also had that game where he could have the ball in his hand and beat you to the rim. But when Phil Jackson came, just like he said on The Last Dance, Phil Jackson came in. I wasn't fond of him at first because he was taking the ball out of my hands, right? The coach previous to that put the ball in my hands. So he played much like LeBron did before Phil got there. But what he did was, look, I'm going to sacrifice my game with the ball, and I'm going to go off the ball to play in the triangle. So he activated his post game. Well, he already had it because he had great footwork and great post moves. He started playing in the post, and he started playing off the ball. He had it all. And then on top of that, he defended at a high level. And LeBron quit defending for about 8 years because he was doing so much on offense. I'm going to do everything because I can't go off the ball. For me to be LeBron, I got to have the ball in my hand. Right? So therefore, I can't give you all that effort on defense because I'm giving you everything I got on offense. That's what I saw.
Jordan play, particularly during his playing days with the Chicago Bulls. He was the best offensive player in the game. He was arguably the best defensive player in the game. He had the best mid-range game. He was the best finisher at the rim. He had the best post-up game, which is incredible considering most players who dominated the post were big men. He was widely considered the most clutch player in the game. He was regarded by opponents as the fiercest competitor on the court. He was regarded by teammates as the hardest worker in practice. And when all was said and done, amongst the other stars of his generation, he was the greatest winner.
You get split statistics, whichever one you value all time or per.
To be the best at any one of those things is pretty remarkable. But to be the best at all of them, I tell you it's impossible, but for the fact that we saw Michael Jordan do it. And when it comes to the GOAT debate, that's the biggest hurdle facing LeBron. He's basically being compared to a guy who was great at everything and practically had no weaknesses. Seriously, judging by the eye test, what's the worst thing we could say about Michael Jordan's game? Probably that he wasn't a very good three-point shooter. Jordan shot 33% from beyond the arc in an era when the average player also shot 33%. So when it came to three-point shooting,
he wasn't a bad three-point shooter.
He wasn't good. He wasn't bad. He was just average. But remember that Michael played in an age when the three-point shot wasn't a big part of the game. During Jordan's years, teams averaged only 9.5 three-point attempts per game.
I think he was a great shooter. Look at his form and his follow-through and his mechanics.
And if being an average three-point shooter is a weakness of Michael's game, well, then we also have to call it a weakness of LeBron's game. The difference is that LeBron plays in an era where the three-point shot is a huge part of the game. During the years in which LeBron played, teams attempted on average over 21 threes per game.
The last
LeBron
3
himself
years,
averaged 4.3 three-point attempts per
I've
game,
been loving
or
his
2.5
shooting.
times as many as Jordan. Despite the increased emphasis on threes, LeBron's career shooting
Bad
percentage from
mechanics,
beyond
though.
the
That's why
arc
his
is only
free
a
throws
hair
are so
better than
bad.
Jordan at 34%. And it's actually slightly below his peers, who averaged 35% from three during his era. But to reiterate, being an average three-point shooter was by far the worst part of MJ's game. For LeBron, it's not even close. LeBron, in fact, has 4 major weaknesses as a basketball player, each of which is readily apparent to anyone who has actually watched him play. First, he's not a good free throw shooter.
This is true.
For his career, LeBron has shot around 73.5% from the free throw line, which is pretty poor for a player who handles the ball as much as he does. In fact, many analysts point out that at the end of games, LeBron shies away from driving to the basket because he's afraid of being sent to the line. I don't know whether that's true, but what I do know is that the odds of LeBron hitting 2 consecutive free throws is statistically not much better than a coin flip. Jordan, on the other hand, shot a solid 83.5% from the free throw line during his career, and MJ never shied away from contact at the end of games. LeBron's second weakness is that he's an inconsistent defender.
Yeah.
Sure, he's had some years where he was elite defensively, which is evidenced by his numerous selections to the NBA's all-defensive team. But he's also had several years where he's practically been a liability on the defensive end.
He was good his first 3 years in
who
Miami.
during his Bulls days was a consistently elite defender. In
His
fact,
first
Jordan
stint
is
in
the only
Cleveland,
player to
he was
rank
a
in the
good
top
defender.
5 amongst all guards in both steals per game and blocks per game for his career. Additionally, Michael led his position in defensive win shares practically every year that he played for the Bulls, an incredible 10 times. LeBron, comparatively, has led his position in defensive win shares on just 4 occasions, and in 5 of his last 7 seasons, he didn't even crack the top 10 at his position.
That's one of the
in
most
defensive win
disappointing things
shares.
about.
Now, some will excuse LeBron's recent fall-off on the defensive end as a byproduct of his resting on defense so that he can have more energy on offense. And we can debate the merits of that strategy.
Yeah, I don't like
resting
this,
on
but he
defense is not
was
something
doing so much
Michael
offense,
Jordan was ever
which he didn't
accused of
have to.
doing. Heck, even as a 40-year-old, he was busting his tail on the defensive end. But what about the notion that LeBron's been the more versatile defender? LeBron supporters will argue that he can guard positions 1 through 5 on the court, such as when he guarded Derrick Rose for stretches in the 2011 playoffs. But LeBron's guarding the opposing team's point guard or center isn't something that happens very often. In fact, during his career, LeBron has spent less than 5% of his total minutes guarding the opposing players 1 or 5. So the versatility argument is highly exaggerated.
Yeah, I got to stop it for that versatility argument too. I can guard 1 through 5. Can do something, and it being a strength and something that can be utilized for winning is different. Can he guard some 5s and some 1s? Sure, he can guard some of them. But if I can't come in the game and say, hey man, this all-star 5 is killing us, let's put LeBron on him. What good? I mean, what good does it do? Like if it doesn't, you get what I'm saying? If it doesn't help you win, right? What good is it to say, oh, he can guard 1 through 5 if you're not actually doing it at a high level? And I mean, like, you're guarding the best 5s, the best 1s. Being able to do it is totally different. And even if you can do it, you know, what level are you doing it to? With Michael Jordan's defense, he was locking people down, and he was getting awarded for doing it. I think he was a steals champion 2 or 3 times. I mean, I have the most steals in the league. He was a defensive player of the year one time. The same year he got MVP. That means I'm the best defender in the league. First team all defense, multiple years, right? So that's totally different than saying, oh, I can guard 1 through 5. That's totally different.
And look, when it comes to versatility, Hometown Buffet may have a more versatile menu than Spago. That doesn't make it a better restaurant.
Right. Quality.
LeBron's third weakness is that he's not a very good shooter. And this is a pretty significant flaw for someone claiming to be the GOAT. I mean, shooting the ball is the quintessential skill in the game of basketball. It's the part of the game that everyone practices, whether on the playground, at the YMCA, or in the NBA. Now, some people will contend that LeBron is actually a better shooter than Jordan because he has a better career field goal percentage. And yes, LeBron's career field goal percentage is 50.4% compared to Jordan's 49.7%. But recall what I said about placing stats into proper context. To help us understand context when it comes to shooting, allow me to introduce DeAndre Jordan and Tyson Chandler. We all know that DeAndre and Tyson were great rebounders and defenders. But what if I told you that they were also 2 of the greatest shooters of all time? That would be certifiably crazy. Yet if you look at all the shooting metrics, field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage, true shooting percentage, both of these guys rank near the top in NBA history. Of course, there's an obvious reason for that. As we all know, both DeAndre Jordan and Tyson Chandler take a lot of their shot attempts on dunks, layups, and putbacks, which are extremely high percentage shots. Well, guess what? So does LeBron James. In fact, every single year of his career, the shot that LeBron James has taken the most has been within 0 to 3 feet from the basket. In other words, dunks, layups, and putbacks. More than 1 of every 3 of LeBron's shots has been within this point-blank range, which is aided by his playing in an era where it's been relatively easy to get to the rim, particularly when compared to the physical era in which Jordan played. And just like every other player, LeBron is really effective from 0 to 3 feet, hitting over 73% of these shots. But how does LeBron fare from outside this range? According to basketballreference.com, LeBron's shooting percentage from outside 3 feet is 37.5%. It's even poorer in the playoffs where he shoots 35.9%.
That ain't gonna
and
get
it gets even worse in close and late situations. In the last 2 minutes of games where the score is within 5 points, LeBron hits only 31.7% of his jumpers. Look, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that these numbers aren't very good, which is probably why in the 2013 finals, the Spurs' defensive strategy against the Heat was to basically dare LeBron James to shoot. And keep in mind, this was against LeBron in his prime. Can you imagine an opposing coach using a similar strategy against MJ? Now, LeBron actually credits the Spurs for forcing him to work on his jump shot, but it's not as if his results have gotten much better since then. Here's LeBron's shooting percentage from outside 3 feet over the last 6 years. Yikes. Well, I'll give him this.
Man, I
he is consistent.
I hate to see this, man.
For
Because
comparison,
I like
consider that
LeBron
in the
so
last
much,
year of
man.
Michael Jordan's career,
I
as
really
an
hate to
aging
see
player on
people
the Washington
destroy
Wizards,
him.
Jordan
And
shot close to 42%
only time you
from
can destroy
outside 3
LeBron
feet.
is when
While that's certainly not
you
great,
pair
it
him up
means that even as
against
a 40-year-old shell of his
Kobe
former
or
self,
Mike.
Jordan was still a
That's
better
it.
shooter, a far better shooter than LeBron James.
As a player.
Unfortunately, Basketball Reference doesn't have advanced shooting metrics from Michael's Bulls days when he was a significantly more efficient scorer, but few would argue that Michael was anything but a lethal jump shooter when he was wearing red and black. When it comes to shooting, all of us can recall practicing shots on the blacktop, counting down 3, 2, 1 before launching a shot at the rim. Well, if you were pretending to be LeBron James, you'd brick almost 2/3 of the time.
Come on, man.
Actually, that's not entirely true. If you were playing against a countdown, it would be much, much worse.
See, he destroying
And that gets
LeBron.
me to the
Man. I don't
last
like
major
this.
weakness of LeBron's game, his performance, or more accurately, lack of performance, in the clutch. Remember when people were praising LeBron for making a couple of buzzer beaters in the playoffs 2 years ago? They used these stats to claim that LeBron was better in the clutch than Jordan. But look at these numbers carefully. What stands out to you? How about this? People were using a sample size of less than 1 shot per season to make the case that LeBron was more clutch than Jordan.
I done seen 11
That would be
shots
the equivalent
that was
of
clutch that
polling just
MJ
100
hit with
people
my
in the
own
country to try
eyes.
to
Like
predict
I
the
actually
winner of the next
watched the game
presidential
live,
election. So let's use more
I know he
telling
got more
stats,
than
shall we?
11.
Here's a situation that's often used to determine a player's clutchness. 5 seconds to go in the fourth quarter or overtime, and your team needs a bucket to either win or tie the game. It answers the age-old question, who do you want taking the last shot with the game on the line?
MJ.
It turns out that in the regular season and playoffs combined, LeBron has taken 94 such shots. That's a pretty good sample size. And how many of those 94 shots has LeBron made? 19, for a shooting percentage of 20%. Let me repeat that. 20%. Guys, that's not bad in the clutch. That's atrocious. Michael Jordan in the same situation shot roughly 50%. Yes, that's right. Jordan's performance under pressure was the same as it was throughout the rest of the game. And that, my friends, is
That's
the
crazy.
definition of clutch. So there
That's
you
crazy.
go. When it comes to the eye test, our eyes tell us that one player, Michael Jordan, is great at everything and has practically no weaknesses. And the
I
other
would
player,
agree.
LeBron James, while also having a ton of strengths, has several obvious flaws to his game.
I agree.
And when all is said and done, after analyzing the 5 key factors of being the GOAT, Jordan gets 4 check marks to LeBron's 1, making this GOAT debate, well, not much of a debate at all.
I would give LeBron a check
Now,
on
don't
statistics.
get me
I would
wrong.
make that a tie.
I'm not saying that LeBron James is a bad
So
player.
it'd be 4-2.
He's a phenomenal player. Personally, I have him on basketball's Mount Rushmore,
I
along
do
with
too.
Jordan, Kareem, Wilt Chamberlain, and Bill Russell. He's just
How you
not
get 5
Michael
on
Jordan.
Rushmore?
And just to underscore how good MJ was, let's ignore LeBron and Jordan for a minute and focus on the other 3 players highlighted here, Kareem, Wilt, and Bill Russell. Most would agree that these are the 3 greatest centers in NBA history, and each of them has a strong case to justify his standing among basketball royalty.
I definitely got Kareem.
Wilt
up
is
there.
an all-time great because he was an offensive force of nature, and he holds a ton of NBA records. Russell is in the conversation because he was a dominant defender and a perennial champion.
Right.
Kareem also led his team to numerous titles, and in terms of individual awards and accolades, was the most decorated of the 3.
Ever since
Not
high
to
school.
mention, he had the NBA's most unguardable shot.
Right.
Now imagine a
I
center
wouldn't
that
add
had
that in there.
all the best qualities from these 3 titans. A player like that would be the basketball equivalent of Thanos. Now add to that player the highest level of intangible
This dude
attributes,
can
such as a tireless work
edit,
ethic,
boy.
unmatched killer instinct, and an ability to deliver in the clutch. And now you'd essentially be looking at Thanos with all of the Infinity Stones, and no one would question whether this player was the greatest of all time. But the truth is, we don't have to imagine such a player. That player already existed. He just
I
happened
see
to
what
be a
he
shooting
did.
guard, not a center. When you think about it,
I
Michael
see what he
Jordan is the
did.
real-life version of an
Good
overpowered
job.
video
I see what he
game character.
did there.
He had
But
all
you're
the
right though.
qualities we look for in a superstar athlete.
Like he got
And
all
he
of
had
it.
it in spades. He's basically Babe Ruth, if Babe Ruth played defense like Willie Mays. And that's why, even in comparison to the other all-time greats, he is truly in a class of his own. Simply put, he's the GOAT.
Wow. This was a good video, man. Wow. And he's right, man. He's right, man. He's the GOAT. Wow. I like this video, man. I'm going to share this. Look at this dude. Come on, man. How you come up with any other answer other than MJ is the one? I mean, I want to see this greatness again and be able to witness it. And I don't take LeBron and Kobe for granted. But I promise you, if I seen this level of greatness, I would admit to it. I would embrace it. I would be on it. I would have no problem with saying, hey, man, this dude is a better player than Michael Jordan and has had the better career.
Thanks. More content like this, please subscribe to my channel. Also, if you like what you saw, please click the like button below and share this video with your friends. And leave a comment to give your thoughts on the GOAT debate.
Wow. Man, I like that, bro. I like that. It was a good video, and he told the truth. Now I do think he took the liberty of giving MJ the statistics, even though we know LeBron is about to break all the records. LeBron about to have so many records, man. So you got to give him the nod. I know he's said that all time has a reason why LeBron is leading in all times, but you have to give him that credit if you're being objective and fair. Right? Give LeBron a check for statistics, man. He earned it. Right? He earned that, man. Like, we know it's a longevity award, and maybe if Jordan played 17 seasons, then maybe he'll hold all the records, but he didn't play 17 seasons. So you got to get at LeBron, man. So the criteria that he used, longevity was the only thing LeBron got. I would give LeBron statistics too. It's only fair. It doesn't make LeBron a better scorer. Just say, hey, look, he got that check over MJ. Or you can make it a tie. Because depending on how you look at it, MJ wins because he talked about the PR and the analytics. So yeah, sure, MJ wins it that way, but all time LeBron wins it. So that's the only thing I would have done different. Maybe give them both a check for that, or give it to LeBron. And that would have made it 3-2 MJ or 4-2 MJ. But the overwhelming nature of the eye test, I mean, you just can't beat that. You can't beat that. If I was to talk about which piece of the criteria weighs heavier, it's definitely the eye test. You gotta be a complete player, right? And maybe LeBron could be the GOAT if MJ didn't exist, right? If we didn't already see a complete player, then maybe what LeBron did, he would be considered a GOAT. But we've already seen a complete player, and that player won more than LeBron, and he played less years than LeBron. LeBron's at year 17. He's still chasing what MJ did in 13 years. Think about that. But yeah, if you like this, I know I was long-winded and it's a long video, but if you stayed for the whole thing, make sure you subscribe, because I will be dropping more reaction videos, and also subscribe to our podcast. We go live every Tuesday at 9:00 Eastern time, 6:00 if you're on the West Coast. We go live and we talk sports for 2 hours. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you won't miss anything. Click that bell so as soon as we go live, you get the notification. But until next time, peace.